Hello everyone! So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how I do my eyebrows, and more specifically how I do them ginger, because I get asked about this quite a lot. I know a lot of you ginger or red-headed ladies want to know how to match your brows, because there's not really many products on the market. Everything is brown, and I know when I first went this color I was like, what am I going to use? Like, there's nothing. So I actually made my own custom mix of a dip brow pomade for my brows, and I used a mix of an Anastasia Beverly Hills dip brow pomade and a MAC Cosmetics kind of gel color in a copper. I will put up the link for the blog post that I did on how I made that mix in the description box below if you want to check that out. Nowadays I do use different products. I don't use that pomade anymore because I like it to be a little bit softer, and this tutorial is going to show you how I do it. One thing to note, and this is how I do get a more coppery look as well, is that I do actually colour my eyebrows. So on my hair colour I use a mix of Kune 743 and 943. I do about a third of 743 and 2/3 of 943. But on my eyebrows I do more 743 because I want it to be a bit darker. So it's really mostly 743 with a tiny dash of 943 and 20 vol. Technically you're not meant to dye your eyebrows with hair colour, but I've been doing it for years and I haven't had a problem. So if you do have a hair colorist or a beautician who can dye your eyebrows a little bit kind of more with a coppery shade, then that might help to get you the red eyebrows of your dreams. Let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing that I like to do is I take a little bit of micellar water or a makeup wipe, and I just put a little bit onto a cotton pad, and I just sort of lightly swipe it over the hairs of the brow, because once you've done your foundation and you've used your powder, then likelihood is that there's going to be a little bit of that coating on the eyebrow hairs, which kind of just dulls the colour, and especially for me when I'm wanting my eyebrow colour to look quite bright and have a copperiness to it, it just really doesn't work in my favour. So I just make sure that there's no makeup on the brow hair. Now the first product that I use on my brows is a powder. I actually use a powder in this Makeup Revolution contour palette because I find it really hard to get a powder that's enough of a coppery tone. I do look at kind of more contour colours because obviously they're matte, and they tend to be on the brownie spectrum. But this contour palette I bought for my makeup kit and ended up looking at this colour here and going, actually that's a really good rusty coppery colour. I would never use it on someone's face, I don't think. It seems so warm, but yeah, it works out really well for my brows. So I just start with using a little bit on my brush, and I just use an angled brush. This is, I don't remember, I got it somewhere, but any kind of angled brush like this is going to do the job. And I start just by kind of lining the top and bottom with the powder, following the line of my, I guess, my natural hair growth, but I can kind of over exaggerate the arch a little bit as well. So I'm really just filling it in, and this is kind of, this is the main part of the colour of how I get the copperiness to it. At the centre part, I just very lightly brush on a little bit. I don't want this to be too hard, so I keep this very soft and making sure that it's quite a blended look through there. So that's the difference so far. With this brow, I do tend to bring the colour slightly more inwards than this one because the hair growth stops a little bit further out. So to even that up, I do just try and bring that out a bit more, and then I will further add to that later on. This brow also doesn't have as much hair growth around the arch, so I do have to really kind of make sure that that's filled in and slightly overdraw the arch. So that's step one. Now I take the Benefit Cosmetics Precisely My Brow Pencil. I really like this pencil because it's a retractable, but it's very fine. So it really allows you to get some quite fine little kind of hair-like strokes. It's also not a really, it's a bit of a drier product, so it allows you to get those finer strokes. If it's a more oily based kind of pencil, then it's going to transfer really easily and you're not going to get that fineness. So I really like this. It has a spoolie on the other end, but I don't really use it that much. I am using shade number 3. I think there's quite a few different shades, maybe from like 1 to 6. So this is kind of a medium brown. Now the aim of what I'm doing here is basically filling in the gaps around the sort of bulk of my eyebrow, extending the tail a tiny bit and defining it, and then also just drawing on some little strokes in here. So I start with the top, and it's going to be quite subtle. And then kind of very lightly line this bottom area, which just gives it a touch more definition. It's quite important that from sort of here to the arch, it's not too much of a curve. You want to kind of aim to have a bit of a straighter line because that's going to look good from all angles. And then with these sort of hair-like strokes in the middle here, I'm going to start at the bottom and just ever so lightly do upward strokes and kind of tapering off as I get to the top. So that's the difference there. So that's step 2. Now I use Benefit Cosmetics Ready Set Brow, which is just a clear brow gel, and it just helps to keep all the hairs in place. I do have quite unruly eyebrows, I have to trim them, so I definitely need this product. If I am wanting a slightly darker, more defined brow, then before I do the brow gel, I will use the Benefit Cosmetics 3D Brow Tones, which is basically like a brow mascara. And this is number 4 that I have, so again, kind of in the medium brown spectrum, but it is more brown, so it does take away a little bit of that copperiness to my brows, so I don't do that all the time. So I just use the brow gel and just brush everything a little bit kind of up and down. Your eyebrow hairs are going to sort of sit a bit better if you do kind of brush them a little bit sort of out on an angle. Now to really tidy them up, I don't do this for my everyday makeup, but for more of a photo shoot, I like to use a concealer brush and some concealer or some liquid foundation and just like kind of define and highlight the brow bone. Use a lighter shade if you want to, if you really want to get that definition, but this is going to really kind of increase how much that brow stands out. And if you're wanting to use a highlighter, then it's going to mean that the highlighter is going to stick a little bit better and be a bit more obvious. This part also allows you to just kind of reshape any that needs it, tidy some bits up, and also I find it helps to really just sort of sharpen and taper that tail. So that's the difference there. So if you want a more natural brow, then perhaps skip this step. This does give it a more makeup look, but I kind of like it. Voila! And the final step is highlighter. So I love Makeup Forever, Pro Light Fusion, I can never remember what it's called, and I just like to do highlighter underneath, really extending it down, and I basically connect it with my cheekbone highlighter. And there it is! Thank you very much for watching this tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions or any recommendations for fellow gingers. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram and my blog, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I'll see you next time.